Welcome to Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration. It's a weekly show that goes out over YouTube and as a podcast over all the major platforms. And each week I get to sit with an inspiring person and talk to them about their story and share it with all of you. And this week is no different. I'm joined by Vicki Anstey. Vicky is an advocate, an ambassador, and I think a real icon for what it takes to succeed in the physical world. She's an incredible athlete and certainly been an inspiration for me and I think many others. Raw, gritty determination, as you'll hear. I'll give her a bit of a bio to save her doing it. Started out in advertising, but very quickly skipped into a different world, which is physical fitness, with her Barreworks company. Where concepts of dance are incorporated in exercise and ordinary people become elite athletes over a period of time. Vicky also went on to the Channel 4 show Who Dares Wins, which was filmed in 2018, got into the final, I think. So we'll talk about that, an incredibly testing, mentally and physically testing experience. And not satisfied with that, she's now got a plan to row across most of the Pacific from California to Hawaii, I think.
That's correct.
With three other, what she describes as ordinary women. I don't think they're ordinary women at all, but we'll talk about that as well. So welcome, Vicky.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So look, you take us back to begin with. You grew up in North Yorkshire.
I grew up in North Yorkshire in a tiny village, I couldn't kind of wait to go and enjoy bigger city life. So I went to Bristol University, which was kind of the furthest I could get away from home without moving country, loved it. And I studied French actually, for no reason other than the fact that I loved French and I was pretty good at it.
Do you still speak it?
Not really fluently, I would say. If I spent some time there, then it would come back. But it's like anything. You
the
have
restaurant
to practice.
French is good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my reading French is quite good. I mean, I still quite like watching a French film or something, and if I go to France, then obviously I can string sentences together. But not on the same level as I was. But that was a long time ago. It's like 20 years ago. And then, I graduated and went straight into the world of advertising.
As you do, after finishing a French degree.
I mean, I kind of knew that I didn't really want to use French. I didn't want to become a translator, I didn't want to become a school teacher, I didn't want to do any of the potentially like obvious things. Like that's kind of, you'll come to realise that's kind of my DNA, is I tend to not do the expected thing.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Like to be a little different and kind of unconventional. So I just really chose a subject that I loved and that I knew I could study for 4 years. And I think university teaches you a lot of other things besides the subject that you're there to study. And so I actually knew that I wanted to get into advertising. So I kind of did that on a graduate scheme.
What drew you towards advertising?
I think kind of the creativity of it. I enjoyed writing. I'm quite a visual person. And I just had this slightly weird obsession with advertising. I always had as a child. Like I knew the adverts on TV. Like I would, I would be able to recite them as soon as they came on, or I'd kind of play that game as a child where you guess what the product is that is being advertised. And so I kind of had developed this sort of slight obsession with advertising and read all the books and and then I worked with some great agencies, and then I went into client side and handled IKEA's advertising, external advertising for about 3 years, which is amazing.
Incredible company.
Amazing company. And actually taught me one of the best lessons in life, which was that IKEA, they always say, we're never at the destination, we're always on a journey, there's always more to do. And they also really encourage you to make mistakes, so it's quite a maverick company. And they would actually celebrate mistakes, like the worst mistake of the year award goes to someone who ordered 100 times more product than they should have done. so they reward mistake as long as you kind of learn from it. So it was a great environment to kind of.
So it's a safe, psychologically safe environment to experiment. And,
and I was 23, and I was like, they took a gamble on me actually at that quite an early age to go in there and be their advertising manager, and so my learning curve was massive, and I loved it, and it was very creative. Great company.
Well, I'm sure many watching or listening will have IKEA stuff, and it certainly feels, having assembled a few of their items, it does feel like you're always on a journey and making mistakes.
That's very true.
But then you jumped into trains, of course.
And then I went. Well, I was actually poached to go to Eurostar, which was very flattering, and they were looking to kind of change up their advertising. They wanted a bit more of a kind of maverick edge to it. And I went there, and I enjoyed it. It challenged me in lots of ways, but advertising had started to kind of lose its edge a bit. And I kind of felt like I got to a point where I was just like, I'm just selling train tickets, I'm just selling furniture. I feel like I need to do something more with my life, and I probably wasn't in a great place in terms of my lifestyle. I was pretty married to my career, is how it is. You work very long hours, there's no real time for you. It's a pretty unhealthy kind of world to be in. There's a lot of breakfast bacon sandwiches at breakfast, kind of eating at your desk, and probably too much drinking and smoking as well. And
it is a hard living lifestyle, isn't it?
And it's kind of just how it was. And in your 20s that's fine, and I certainly had some great times, but I actually remember one evening sat really late at my office at Eurostar, and I caught a glimpse of myself back in the monitor of the computer. I was just like, what are you doing? Is this how life is going to be? Just constant churn, in at work at 7, leaving at 9, no time for yourself, weekends just spent exhausted and kind of catching up. And and I got pretty out of shape, and I'd never actually really been all that sporty as a child, really, or at university, but a switch flicked in my head, and I decided to kind of do something about it. And at that stage I'd also transitioned from Eurostar to work for a social enterprise doing their marketing, which was a bit more fulfilling, but I kind of still knew that it wasn't quite kind of pushing my buttons, and long term I kind of needed a new game plan. And I'd started to kind of get a bit more active. I discovered this class called the Lottie Burke method, and someone had said to me it's like doing exercise without exercising. So I was like, I am all over that.
Sounds like my kind of exercise.
Exactly. So I went along, and Lottie Burke is basically the original bar method.
Oh, okay.
So that's where bar has kind of come from.
Right.
And I'd never done ballet in my life. It was this kind of it's not really ballet, but using ballet positions, and but oh my god, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I instantly loved it.
So describe it a little bit deeper for people who may not be familiar.
So the way that I describe it now, and the method that I've evolved since I first began to take those classes myself, is quite different, and has grown, and is more dynamic and more evolved, and a bit more fast paced. But essentially I kind of describe it as being the strength and conditioning of ballet.
Right.
So a ballet dancer will spend hours doing bar, which is basically standing at
literally at the bar,
at the wall mounted bar, going through different positions, going through different strength building exercises, different flows. Essentially it's kind of challenging. It's all about challenging your core stability, your shoulder, hip, spinal stability, in quite challenging positions. There's a lot of the upstairs that needs to be involved in gritting it out. But I'm quite a stubborn, kind of determined person, so I think that's why I instantly loved it.
When you took the first
totally
class,
addicted to it. Yeah.
And so, but it's a big leap to
Yeah.
go from taking a class to starting a company.
Right. Well, yeah, and that transition took a bit longer. So I continued to work in advertising for a while. I did those classes for about 2 years, but it had become something that was so routine that I really, my lifestyle had started to change. I started to do a few runs. Those runs then turned into marathons, so I was then sort of in this amazing cycle where I was getting fitter, stronger, had more stamina, was able to run for longer. Things would change. So then your lifestyle changes to accommodate marathon training, for example.
How are you? So from the computer monitor, a couple of years of doing this class, I mean that's a big period. How we, other than your lifestyle, what changes did you see in yourself, in your strength, and your?
Well, I think I'd begun to program my week completely differently. So rather than it just being about handing my life over to work from Monday to Friday and often at the weekends as well, I kind of had an agreement with my company that on a Monday night, a Wednesday night, I was leaving at 6 o'clock, and that was my time, and I was going to use it to kind of create a more active life for myself, a better, healthier lifestyle for myself. And all other times I'd be in at the office whenever needed. And then that just kind of started to take over, and I started to see changes in my own body, which is a huge motivation to continue. And it's such a targeted exercise method that I started to see changes in my body that I didn't even think I'd ever see. You kind of think you're a certain body type or body shape.
For example?
Well, just I carried weight in certain areas that I just thought, well, that's just how I'm made. Turns out that's not the case at all, and it was just such a mentally kind of focused method as well. And you think about ballet, it's so disciplined, and although it's not ballet as such, that discipline runs through it. So actually it's such a great way to de-stress, because you can't think about all the other stuff that's kind of flying around your head. You're just really focused in the moment.
So some people who are watching or listening may be thinking, I kind of like to do that, but I'm just too busy.
Yeah.
What advice would you have?
Well, I think you can always find time to do the things you want to do in life, can't you? That's the truth of the matter. But then I kind of plan my week in terms of when am I training.
Right.
That's what goes in first.
That's the first thing, and then everything else. I
mean, and I'm lucky. I've worked hard for it, but I do work in an active job, so I get to train as part of that. But even before I was in that situation, I was kind of thinking, I need to make sure that I can get this run in, I can get this class in, I can, because I knew that it had changed my mindset so much, and was changing my lifestyle in a really positive way.
So
I just felt better, looked better, felt healthier, had more energy. So it kind of, I think that's the easy way out. Actually, often is to say, I haven't got time.
Yeah.
But if you make time for something like that,
you've got to make time.
You reap the rewards in so many ways.
I totally relate to that, and I'm very grateful that I didn't offer you a bacon sarnie this morning. I did offer you eggs though, it's fair to say.
Yeah.
I was saying to Vicky, I've never done one of these with actual eggs in front of us. We do have coffee though, and there's plenty of inspiration. So what took you from, a change in lifestyle and an enthusiasm for exercise into starting a company around that?
Well, because Lottie Burke was so little known, and it was this tiny studio in Fulham that only very few people knew about, and it was kind of, that was the idea of it. They didn't advertise, and it was this kind of club, if you like,
reassuringly exclusive.
Yeah, right. And I just kind of, that's just really not me. I just felt like if I'm doing something that has transformed me and my life, I want to share it and I want to tell people about it. And I suppose with a marketing hat on, I just thought, this is a huge opportunity. And then I started to kind of research it a bit more, and I realised that bar was massive in the US. And so I spent, over the years, I've spent a lot of time in New York kind of scouring the streets there, and I've done a lot of training over there as well, because they're just a lot further down the line than we are. in the UK, although it actually originated here in London. It
Oh,
was
really?
Then, it was then taken over to the States
Huh.
and flourished, as things tend to.
Amazing.
So I could see how well bar had done.
So you thought, well,
And I just thought, like,
Why
just
not?
more people need to know.
Yeah.
It's changed me. The point for me was that as a non-ballet dancer and as someone who had never really been very fit, suddenly having discovered this method and become quite hooked to it and good at it, anyone could do that.
Right.
If that had really changed me, like, it really could change anyone.
could I come along and do a class?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, and we
Right.
have men's classes.
Awesome.
And we train athletes now. So, I'm really on this like huge kind of drive to affect a bit more credibility for bar in the fitness world, because I think automatically people will go to Pilates or to yoga, if they feel like, I need to take care of I need to strengthen my core. It's such an overused term, but so automatically they'll tend to go to do some Pilates. Well,
Right.
actually, bar's a lot more functional than Pilates. It's also a lot more enjoyable.
Is it?
It's a bit more fun and
Yeah.
more dynamic. And I think sometimes the sort of the ballet aspect puts people off. But I had never done ballet in my life, and that was part of what drew me in. Was like I've never thought I could be in this world.
Well, I'm intrigued. I'm going to come along. So this is your chance to do a little plug. It's Barreworks.
Yeah, so it's Barreworks. Our studio is in Richmond, in southwest London. But you can have a look on our website, which is barreworks.co.uk, and
link below.
We've got online classes, so you can have a look at that as well. So if you can't get to the studio, then
Fantastic.
train with us online.
It sounds amazing. So you've really thrown yourself in wholeheartedly to this. You've got a business. It's 10 years old now, so it's a thriving business.
Yeah, it's 10 years old now, and it's kind of, we've expanded without the expansion being about bricks and mortar, but much more through instructor training and through kind of strands of the business that we've been able to kind of open up. So I've recently set up a new venture called the Business of Fitness, with my business mentor, so someone that I've worked with for a few years now, who's helped me take Barreworks to a sort of another level, if you like. And so we've now set something up together that is all about inspiring fitness instructors who are already qualified in their discipline to run a business, because I think a lot of the time the type of person who would go into the fitness industry is quite creative, obviously physically capable of delivering their chosen discipline, but doesn't necessarily think of themselves as a business person, like I don't. I still don't. So that's all about kind of furnishing them with the skills and the knowledge and opening their eyes to the opportunities and the pitfalls and all that kind of stuff. So and I've got people coming from overseas to train with us now. So we're kind of, my whole vision was about, and still is about, making Barreworks like following a Liberties model, if you like. So Liberties is unapologetically one location, and that's kind of how I wanted Barreworks to be, like the hub, kind of the number one place that you want to go and train as a client or as an instructor. And so we're kind of building out without having too many locations to get around.
Big industry too. Everyone's got a body.
Right, exactly.
So tell me about, let's pivot. Right, so you're in Barreworks. Where did Channel 4 Who Dares Win come from? I mean, what happened?
A lot's happened in the last couple of years. I had left my husband, and that was a 20-year relationship. So I've met him when I was at Bristol University when I was 19 years old, and I turned 40, and I just had a bit of an epiphany that it perhaps wasn't the relationship that it had always been, and that maybe that wasn't the right relationship for me anymore, and that life didn't have to be a foregone conclusion. So like the next 40 years of my life didn't have to be a repeat of the previous 40. So I was kind of in this space of like re-establishing my own identity and creating some security and kind of building my business up so it would sort of support me independently, and just I think when you have a bit of a mindset change like that, doors just suddenly start opening. And I was just saying yes to lots more stuff, and I'd noticed that SAS Who Dares Wins were inviting women to participate for the first time, because it had previously been an all male thing. Show, yeah. And so I put that out on my Instagram stories. I think I reposted something by Ant Middleton and said, how great it was that women were going to be allowed to show their mettle, and then I was just like inundated with comments from friends and people that I train with to say, well, so you're going to apply?
Why didn't you do it?
Yeah, and I was like, no. I had literally had no intention.
Yeah.
And then just the seed was planted, I guess, and I just kind of thought, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And generally, when I can't stop thinking about something, I have to. You have to do it.
Yeah.
And those cogs started turning, and so I applied, and then I was invited to go and do a physical assessment, which actually I failed. So I was 3 press-ups short of the requirement.
Goodness me.
And so I thought it was all over at that point. I'd had this amazing day out being tested for entry-level SAS kind of fitness. That to me was like, this is the best day out ever. And I was like 4 press-ups short of passing that selection. So I was like, I'll take that. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Good day out.
Yeah, good day out. And then they called me back, and I had to redo the press-ups, and I had another 2 attempts at that, and finally I got it.
Did you practice in between?
I did, and I finally got that with like 6 seconds to spare in my final attempt.
That seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge amount. Well, but this is how my brain works. So when I'm kind of pushed to the limit, where most people would then be fatigued, that's where I just seem to have like this other weird gear that kicks in, and it's totally up here.
Amazing.
And so then I was being sent army boots and navigation manuals, and but still no guarantee or confirmation that I was definitely going. So I had like 10 days notice that I was going to Chile.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So and the location, it was in it was in Chile.
Yeah.
What were you thinking? Oh, fantastic! I'm going to be.
Well, we didn't know where it was going to be.
You didn't know.
No.
Yeah.
So we were sent these army boots, and because I've done obviously British military fitness for a number of years, so have a few friends who are from the military, and they're like looking at these boots, kind of. A bit of teeth sucking. Oh, I'm not sure where these are. They're definitely not desert boots. They're definitely not this kind of terrain boot. And I was like, oh god. So yeah, I literally arrived at Heathrow with no notion of
where you were going.
Where I was going.
And you ended up in the Chilean Andes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
High up. What was the altitude?
The altitude was about, I think it was around 2,500, but we went up to about 3,500 at one point.
Feet or meters?
Meters.
Meters.
Yeah.
So that's
so the altitude.
Hypoxia range.
Oh yeah. And some people really did suffer quite badly. I think altitude is one of those things that you either adapt to or you don't. And there were some incredibly strong recruits who just didn't adapt and ended up with hypoxia.
No doubt,
and pneumonia and
But you obviously did, and we live in London. Yeah. It's not exactly a high altitude place, is it?
No, I don't. I think it's entirely random.
Yeah.
I don't think actually it's really got that much to do with your fitness. So I was pretty lucky that, I had this awful cough the whole way through, and you kind
Did you have that going in? Or
no. That was through the altitude.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'd kind of lie down on these awful camp beds that we had for. We virtually got no sleep, but any time you did get to lie down, it felt like this immense pressure on your chest.
Right. Because you were just trying to get the oxygen.
Yeah, and you're kind of running, from A to B fast because you're being screamed at.
Yeah.
and you're
carrying
just
weight
carrying a 45-pound burden on your back and desperately just trying to get oxygen in your lungs as you're going up and up and up and up. So yeah, there was a lot to contend with.
11 days of
hell.
Tell me about your cohort. So how many people were on it?
So there were
men,
25
women?
of us in total. Half men, half women, and in fact I'm not sure whether it was a 12-13 split, which way it was, but 25 of us in total, and all from completely different walks of life. And that was, one of the things that I really learned from that experience was just about not judging people. So I was living and breathing and supporting and being supported by people who I just would never have met in my life. I'm pretty fortunate, and
are you still in touch with them?
Yeah, we're still in touch, but there were some incredible stories. I mean, either you just would never have crossed paths through geography, or just because you just live in different worlds. And I think what it taught me was stories
as in sort of helping each other, for example, or
so I mean, but everybody had a story. So my story was pretty boring. I was like a 40-year-old woman getting divorced who, I think they were like on the ballet angle and found that quite interesting. But there were a lot of stories of drug addiction and alcoholism and being involved in gangs and homelessness and and awful bereavements as well. So everybody kind of went in there with something that they were dealing with, and so that's kind of part of the show, to kind of share those stories and see how people can overcome those issues in life through physical, mental challenge.
Amazing. Well, and speaking of physical and mental challenge, I've seen a couple of the episodes. Physical bee stings, ice hole submersions, water and height challenges. I mean, take us through some of the more extreme experiences that you had.
So I mean, like literally every day we'd have 2 or 3 of these challenges in amongst, like, I don't know, 3 different sessions where we were physically like pushed to our limits. So they're basically trying to like physically grind you down, break you, until all you've got to rely on is your mind, and then they're testing your mental resilience. So it was literally all about kind of break you down, then put you through some kind of mental test or challenge. But even the physical challenges, so we'd spend maybe a couple of hours on these awful Unimob trucks that were desperately uncomfortable. Like, we'd all joke sitting in the back that whenever we get to interrogation, it just can't be as uncomfortable as sitting in these awful vehicles. The roads are horrendous and you're being thrown around, and we'd get out of the truck at some point and we'd see the setup of what might appear to be an abseil off a 300-foot cliff face, and then you see one of the DS come down off the top of the cliff forward facing,
directing staff, right? One of the SAS people.
So there are 4 guys who run the course, and they're all ex-SAS or SBS, but so that everything that you kind of thought, oh my god, I think I know what this is going to be, it would be worse than that. There would be some kind of spin on it or twist on it. So the ladder scene that we had to do, where we had to walk across 2 ladders slung together across a kind of 30-foot ravine, had this waterfall crashing down. It was called the Devil's Throat.
Gosh.
And it was like such a fitting name for it. But not only did we have to walk across this ladder, we then had to squat in the middle, like bum to heels, and then get back up again and complete it.
And you're not good with heights, right?
I think
you're probably better now.
I think I'm a lot better now. I haven't like since then really put it to the test. But I think that kind of flushed out a lot of my height demons.
With the safety, there must be.
So pretty much everything you're doing, you're in a safety harness, and you kind of think, these are 4 guys who between them have got like 80 years experience or whatever of special forces training. Like, you literally couldn't be safer. And they are properly running the course. They're not just there for TV, they're behind the scenes, they're doing everything. It's amazing. But even then, when you think, I can't die, it's still incredibly terrifying.
Well, there's real. I mean, yes, it's TV, but there's real danger, right?
There
This
is real danger. There is real danger, and there were several times where, honestly, but for the grace of God, someone didn't
really
die, get really badly injured, fall off a hill.
Give us an example. What was the scariest moment you had?
The worst thing was right at the end. So we were put on this escape and evasion task through the night. We'd had a 24 hours without food or water, or sleep, sorry, we did have water, by that point already, and then this was a further 24 hours, so we basically had absolutely no food, no sleep, and through the middle of the night we had to get from a kind of RV point to another RV point where we would follow a map.
RV is?
As a rendezvous.
Yeah. So
we'd have to meet someone who'd give us another instruction to get to somewhere else, and the whole time you're being chased.
Who's chasing you, by the way?
The kind of local militia, and so they ultimately we knew that we were going to get captured. It was just a matter of kind of how long that took.
Yeah.
And actually it was slightly ridiculous because we had a cameraman with us who obviously had a GPS, so they knew exactly where we were. It was just a game of cat and mouse, really.
Yeah.
However, we were on our own, and we were scaling like 20-foot drops with no equipment, no safety equipment, holding on to like cactus plants to avoid sliding down into this like waterfall. It was like rapid water. Someone's Bergen fell off at one point, and it literally tumbled down. It was the most terrifying thing ever. So we were basically trying to cross really difficult terrain without being up on a road where we could be tracked. So we had to stay beneath road level.
So you could have really hurt yourself, or worse.
Honestly,
yeah.
That was the scariest thing. It was ridiculous, like terrain, but it was the kind we were, and obviously there were lighter moments where we all just had to laugh about it. But we were saying, like, if we had been asked to do this at the beginning of the course,
you wouldn't have done it.
You would never have done it. And then, but then by that point we were like, we're SAS, we've just got to crack on and get this done. Your mindset changed, even in 11 days. It's unbelievable.
Interesting. And you got right into the final?
Yeah, so I got right into the last stages of it. So we were captured and we were put through interrogation, and so we had the earphones on with the awful noises of babies crying and women screaming and animals being slaughtered and all the kind of stuff that they try and do to just mess your head up. And so I did 8 hours of that. So that was being put in stress positions, being verbally interrogated, being stripped down. One guy was put into a box in the ground. They have some pretty brutal methods. So they've given us this real story and a kind of fake story, and we had to kind of drip feed information, and this kind of no ideal way of doing it. There's no way to win, if you like.
Yeah.
It's just about trying to withhold as much information as you can for as long as you can, and they're obviously trying to torture it out of you.
Yeah.
But we were hit, and there were chains used. And,
you were hit?
Yeah. We were put in stress positions, so I might be kind of standing with my hands up against a wall, and there'd be someone coming up behind me. I'm not going to say it was Aunt Middleton, but it could have been with literally like a truncheon, and they're kind of hitting you on the back of the head and moving you around, pushing you around. It was tough. It was really tough.
Yeah, it sounds incredibly tough. Goodness me. And getting all the way as you did, huge inspiration to many who were watching.
Yeah.
How did life change after that?
Immeasurably, honestly. And obviously there was like a massive gap between doing it and it coming out on TV. So it's not like just the fact of it being on TV opened doors. It was my mindset coming out of it. I just suddenly felt like I can actually do it. I couldn't believe that I could do that. I couldn't believe that as a non-ballet dancer I could set up the first dedicated bar and ballet studio in the UK. It doesn't feel like me, but that's kind of the point. Like, we're all capable of much more than we think we are, and our human potential is kind of out there waiting for us to unlock it, I think. And so it just changed my whole outlook, and I felt like there's like really nothing I can't do.
I'm feeling really inspired just sitting here talking to you. Speaking of which, there's nothing that you can't do. You've got a world record attempt coming up next year with the Great Pacific Race. Tell us about that.
So I mean, the number one question that people would ask me after SAS was, so what are you doing next? You know, it's a bit like when you get married, when you're having babies, and I just didn't really have a good enough answer, and I didn't necessarily feel like, oh, there has to be another thing, like I literally have to. Yeah, I kind of thought.
Where do you go after SAS?
Well, I also thought, like, probably nothing. I might just like chill out for a bit. But I'm so inspired by what has happened to me over the last couple of years, and I want to continue that. And I genuinely am a very normal person, and I feel like things have happened to me, or I've been able to take advantage of things in life that even I don't believe that I could have done. And I really want to inspire other people, especially more women, to kind of really go out there and find those things. So, you know, I kind of had half an eye on, well, what will I do next? Maybe I'll go and do the Marathon des Sables because that looks cool. And then, I don't know, I was kind of like, but so many people do that, and it's not easy to do it, but you know, it's kind of easy to get into it and to apply for it, whatever. And I kind of, the beauty of SAS was that it was so serendipitous, you know, that I would actually, how could I go from applying to actually being in the Andes and doing that? So I was actually approached by someone through someone that I was on SAS with, who just basically said to me at an event, it was a BMF press event actually,
right,
and just kind of leaned over and said, do you fancy rowing the Pacific with me? And I was like, yes. Just the idea instantly kind of got me, and it was so massive, and it was water, and that's still a demon that I feel like I need to deal with. And I just felt like, well, what better way is there to just, I mean,
what better way to deal with water than 4,000 kilometres away?
I'm just kind of so in that mindset now, where you just like, it's such an amazing thing to be able to say yes to things.
Yeah.
If you can do it, say yes. Like, worry about it later. Just say yes, just because the doors just that open from that are amazing. And you learn so much about yourself. So so basically I'm in a crew of 4 women, we will leave from San Francisco in June next year, and hopefully make it to Hawaii less than 50 days later. So the current world record stands at 50 days and 19 hours, so we're hoping to beat that. And it will be 2 hours on, 2 hours off for that whole time.
Each person. Yeah. How many rowing at any one time? Is it
2 rowing.
2 rowing. Okay.
And so we'll get no more than like 90 minutes sleep at a time.
How do you train for that? I mean, how do you train for rowing the Pacific?
Well, there's a bit of rowing.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm doing a bit of rowing.
But it's not ocean rowing, is it?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
No, the rowing that I'm doing is on a rowing machine, on an erg.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite different.
Right.
But that's just really about spending time rowing.
Getting the technique.
You know, so we're each going to take 1.3 million strokes over the crossing. So every time I pull that erg, you know, I'm thinking like it's like when you're training to run for a marathon, you know, it's every step you're just building up time, or you do a cycling sportive, you need to spend time in the seat to kind of build that resilience and have those awful rows when you feel like you're going to throw up, because actually the reality is when we're on the ocean we'll be rowing at quite a slow, steady pace.
Right.
And it's everything else that's going to be, you know, the challenge. So, it will obviously be physically demanding. I think people tend to, like, I know someone who lost 20 kilos doing the crossing.
Wow.
A guy. But I think generally people will lose about 10 kilos So
extraordinary.
Yeah.
And this is unsupported, right? It's not.
Yeah,
it's not
it's unsupported. There is a safety boat, but we'd be disqualified if we had to use it. And it might take a day to get to you anyway. So we really do have to be.
You're really out there.
Self-sufficient. Yeah, we carry all our food. We're just. Yeah, have to deal with everything that kind of comes up, including 60-foot swells and sharks and flying fish and storms and sleep deprivation and sores. I mean, like, my hands are already in a complete state. They're going to get a lot worse than that.
Amazing. And you're raising money. This is for charity?
Yes. Yeah. So we're currently kind of confirming the charities that we're going to be raising money for, but it will be around, inspiring women through sport and some mental health charities as well.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
And if somebody is interested in sponsoring the event, how do they do that?
So we're obviously looking for corporate sponsorship, and we've got like a series of packages available for that. So you could name our boat, or you could sponsor one of our blades, or various different options there. But we're also appealing to individuals to sponsor us. We're offering to do talks when we get back. In return for sponsorship, for companies that might want to motivate their workforce. We're also doing a crowdfunding option on our website, which is dreamdaredo.org.uk. So things that people can opt to buy us. So you might want to buy us a life jacket, or you might want to buy us food for a week. So we're kind of breaking all the different costs that it takes to undertake the challenge.
dreamdaredo.org.uk. We'll link it below.
Yeah.
So go check it out.
Yeah.
Amazing cause.
And then we're running a 250 club. So it's like a club of people who inspire us that we're inviting to pledge £250. We'll write your inspirational message outside of our cabin. So we've got that to look at while we're rowing. And then we invite you to kind of networking events and send you a postcard from Hawaii and stuff. So that's like our kind of core crew, if you like. So lots of different ways that we're hoping we will generate the sponsorship that we need, but we've got to raise £140,000 even to do it.
Not straightforward. Place. Yeah. No. Okay. So get on the link and sponsor. I have to say, you've described yourself as an ordinary woman. When we were in correspondence setting this thing up, you said, 4 ordinary women are going to row 4,000 kilometres from San Francisco to Hawaii. Doesn't sound ordinary at all, but I think there's something deeper. There's a message deeper in your description. So, as a parting bit of advice, what have you learned for people watching out there? What's your inspiration? What's your advice?
Oh God, I've learned so many things over, particularly the last couple of years. My advice is work hard. Don't give up on things that are important to you. You can achieve. Any of us can achieve anything we want to. Get rid of the fears and the kind of demons in your head. Fear is kind of the number one thing that prevents us doing stuff. So, a fear of failure, or a fear of what other people think of us, or a fear even of success, actually. Fear is just there to kind of prepare your body for something. So, we shouldn't use it as this barrier to doing things in life that we want to do. But we are essentially 4 ordinary women. We all have our own jobs. We're not professional rowers. We're doing all of the administration and all of the training when we've done our normal jobs. And I think particularly to a kind of female audience, I think that's what we want to show is you can do it all. You can.
Ordinary people can do extraordinary things with the courage. Vicky Anstey, you're an inspiration to me, and no doubt many others.
Thank you.
Very best of luck.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.